Oregon beats Wisconsin 21-7 in a very slow, methodical, sloppy game. At one point, Oregon led 21-0. Wisconsin got a very late garbage time score. Dante Moore left the game midway with an injury. Oregon brought in backup Brock Thomas, who isn't as good as Dante Moore, but I think looked good for a backup for a former walk-on player. And Oregon survives. They advance. And I think there are some maybe issues that Oregon has, but I also don't know, given the hurricane, the quarterback injury. Before I continue, liking the video, watching the video all the way through, and commenting your thoughts down below are the best ways to support the channel, as they help push me into the algorithm, help me to receive a larger paycheck that I can use to reinvest in producing elite analysis for you all. Subscribing to the channel, hitting the notification bell, sharing the video around, and supporting us in other ways that you can find out via the description are other awesome ways to support our operation at College Football with Sam. We are becoming the best. We want to be the best. Thank you all for making that possible. The fact that Oregon, they're going into a bye. They're coming back from a trip to Rutgers. Before that, a game against Indiana. They've had a little bit of their own, their own gauntlet. And yeah, I think that there are concerns here to have, but at the same time, it is late October and we're entering November. And if Oregon goes into Iowa and beats them by 20 points, they will be talked about as possibly the #1 power-rated team. So that's my angle on all of this, is Oregon is not perfect, but I don't know if any team really is perfect. I think defensively, as you should against Wisconsin, they played pretty well. Wisconsin was starting a new running back in this game that did pretty well against the Ducks, but after about a half, they adjusted to it pretty well, really limited Wisconsin's ability to run the football, and I mean, they held Hunter Simmons to a 5.1 QBR. He only averaged 4.1 yards per pass attempt, and he had a long of 42 against Oregon's, I think backup defensive backs. Gideon Ituka, I hope that's how you say his name. He was pretty good for the Badgers, 85 rushing yards, 4 yards per carry. Wisconsin did a pretty good job in pass rush. So with Ohio State, they struggled a bit in pass rush. I'm not really concerned with Ohio State's pass blocking O-line. Oregon's to a certain degree, but not really either. I mean, as in the Oregon game against Indiana, I think that was more on Dante Moore. Wisconsin just has a really good defensive front. And unless you can directly mitigate that, and usually you have to have a really good passing offense to do so, and Oregon's still figuring that out, you will have issues. Oregon playing Wisconsin reminded me a lot of Michigan, except Oregon did a much better job running the ball and controlling the game in the second half than Michigan did, because Oregon's a better team than Michigan is. I still think Oregon is one of the teams competing for a national championship. They are certainly competing for the college football playoff. They do, and we'll talk about this in a few seconds here, they need to win out to do that. I don't know with their schedule if a 10-2 Oregon gets in. We'll see. I think they would, but I'm not exactly confident in that fact. The idea, though, that they were able to outrun the Badgers 203 to 108 when Wisconsin was doing a much better job on the ground in the first half, and when Wisconsin pretty much guessed run for much of the second half because Oregon had a backup QB, I thought that was impressive. Oregon's offensive line is among one of the best in America. I just think that their quarterback situation isn't as good as I thought it was in September, early October, and they have issues with their weapons. They really just have Brycen Moore and Kenyon Sadiq, and that's kind of it. I think if you're Oregon, you want Evan Stewart to come back for the playoffs. Remember, he'd still be eligible for a red shirt if he did that, because postseason games don't count against a red shirt. So you could have him for next year, and he'd want to come back. I mean, there's just with the injury and with how he's performed, there's not enough for him to maximize his draft capital. So you could get him in the playoffs and get him back for next year. That'd be huge, and that would be a game changer, because having 3 great weapons instead of 2 means a whole lot. Just ask Ohio State how 2022 would have been different if Jackson Smith and Jigbo were healthy. You have your answer. They would have been 15-0, worst case scenario 13-1. They would have certainly beaten Georgia. Probably, I think they would have beaten Michigan too, and Day would have a second title if Smith and Jigba's just healthy. So, not saying Evan Stewart Smith and Jigba, he's not, but we know that talent is flattening in football, and Decorian Moore's probably a future first-round receiver. Sadiq could be a first-round tight end. Just having an additional quality weapon who could be picked on day 2 or day 3 of the draft would be very beneficial to Oregon. Dante Moore didn't have a really good game, got hurt. I imagine over the bye they'll try and work on some things with him. Certainly he's not having the same hot start as he did earlier in the season. As he's faced better defenses, more talented teams, some issues have come to rise. Overall, though, Oregon's defense nearly pitched a shutout. They're a better defense than they were last year by a mile. I think this O-line is a higher ceiling than last year's O-line. Just quarterback play is more inconsistent. You don't have the same group of receivers, although you have a better wide receiver one. Still optimistic on Oregon overall, but we'll get to them in a minute. I want to once again spend time on Wisconsin and how they deserve better. I can't do this. If I were a Badger fan, I couldn't do this. Wisconsin is only halfway effective at running the ball on scripted drives. So Michigan and Oregon on the road, they did that. Like early on, ran the ball, and then after that, they got destroyed on the O-line, and their D-line eventually had to cave in because it's not this. It's a great unit, but it's not elite. And their secondary at times was taken advantage of. More so in the Michigan game, Oregon didn't really do anything through the air, and yet still ran for over 200 yards, which I thought was impressive. But the overall performance, pretty sloppy indeed. You're 2-6, 0-5 in Big Ten play. You have a bye, and then you play Washington at home, Indiana on the road, Illinois at home, and Minnesota on the road. Realistically, I think you're losing out. At best, you're winning one of those games to go 3-9. Luke Fickell and Wisconsin need to part ways for the betterment of probably Fickell's sanity and the better of the Badger program. Wisconsin deserves better. The only thing they're good at is stopping the run. Everything else they're pretty bad at. That's all I have to say. For Oregon, at Iowa, it really determines the season. I could see USC maybe beating Oregon, but that's also tough. I really just think that their game against Wisconsin was similar to their game against Northwestern, where you're just trying to get through the motions. You weren't really expecting this team to maybe punch you in the mouth, given what happened against Iowa and Ohio State. You play a little bit sloppy. You still at one point lead 21-0. You were never going to lose. You just didn't perform all that well. I think this team out of the bye will perform better against Iowa. Doesn't mean they'll win. Iowa is way better than Wisconsin, and it's on the road, time zone change, and it could be a 10 a.m. local. It could be a 10 a.m. local kick for Oregon because you have to travel to the central time zone. Like that could be so noon Eastern time, 11 a.m. No, it'd be a 9 a.m. I don't know why I thought that. Why did I think that? Whatever. It would be a 9 a.m. local kick. There's a chance of that happening at Iowa. At best, it's going to be a 12:30 p.m. local kick. So Iowa, from a bodily clock standpoint, will probably have an advantage in that game. And Iowa in the trenches can match what Oregon does. Better than Penn State, similarly to what Indiana could do. Just don't have the perimeter play or don't have the perimeter play, coaching, or quarterback that Indiana does. So that is going to be a real test for the Ducks. But I think they should be favored there, and they should win that game, and they should honestly win out. They do have a tough November, though. Like, Minnesota's really your only very guaranteed win at home on a Friday night. At Iowa, USC at home, and at Washington are going to be tough. If Oregon wins all three of those games, they're national title contenders. If they lose one of them but beat the others, they're probably still in the playoffs, but maybe they could even get snubbed with the weak strength of schedule. Penn State not being good really hurts Oregon's case, but I think this team, I think they're one of the best in America. I'm giving them some benefit of the doubt based on what I saw at parts of the season. Oregon, they beat Wisconsin. They're a good team, great team, certainly in the near elite section. We'll see if they're elite, and November is going to tell us a whole lot about that. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure, if you haven't already, to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, comment your analysis and thoughts down below so I can reciprocate my thoughts with you in the comment section, and check out anything on these end screens that are up here. Whether it's a recommended video or playlists for teams that I'm talking about in a preview, prediction, or a reaction, make sure to hit the notification bell on those, scroll through them, and watch any suggested videos if you are interested. Thank you for helping College Football with Sam become the best and the biggest college football brand and channel on YouTube and other social media platforms. We will reach that one day because of your support.